Streamer. Powered by Streamer. Stream your podcast, stream your story, stream yourself. Try it free at streamr.nyc.
The Stonewall Inn stands as both a historic landmark and a symbol of resistance and resilience. While it marks the beginning of a movement, it also evolved into a thriving LGBTQ plus business. Your stewardship of Stonewall connects past activism with present-day purpose. How do you balance honoring the legacy of Stonewall with innovating your business for today's LGBTQ plus community, and what challenges or opportunities come with that responsibility?
Well, first of all, I'm going to preface this all by saying when we bought the place in 2006, no one told me I was going to have to do public speaking. So please bear with me, okay? To the beginning, when we took over the Stonewall Inn, it wasn't treated for its historical significance. It was just a bar. And so when we took it over and we had to jump through hoops, we went up against a Starbucks, a jazz club, and a nail salon to get it. And we had to jump through hoops to get it. But we knew we needed to get it to be the innkeepers of history. We had to protect that history, and it was going. So we finally got it, and we walked in. We said, okay, what are we going to do? We looked at the place. It was a dump. There was rat holes in the walls, and literally rat holes in the walls. And the bar had 5 layers of paint on it. I know I scraped off every layer. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to make the club look like what it would have looked like in the 60s when it was illegal. When it was illegal to even serve alcohol to homosexual. Or it was illegal if same-sex partners were dancing. And it was illegal if you didn't wear 3 articles of clothing that matched your gender. So what we did is we took the downstairs, we shut it down for 6 months. We took the downstairs and made it all wood paneling, scraped the bar, like I said. And upstairs, we made it look like Moulin Rouge. And that's where we were having drag shows and made it like that. We wanted to bring back what we thought it should have been from the beginning. And this is also going to educate the youth. Because the youth today does not know what it's like to not be able to say who you love. I mean, for the most part, I won't say totally, but for the most part, they don't know what it was like not to be able to say who you love and not to say who you are. They had to know what the people did back in 1969 that fought back for their right to be who they are today. And if they don't know this, if they don't know their history, they could lose our future.
Yeah, and I really think, also from a business perspective, really understanding it's, there's 4 of us that are current owners. We like to say we are owners in theory. The community owns that bar.
Yes.
And we treat it that way, and we've always treated it that way, and that's the intersectionality, and really saying that storytelling is impactful and turning that into activism has been our ability to really get a younger generation involved and keep that fight, and from a business perspective, right, really keep the Stonewall at that level.
We didn't buy the Stonewall to become rich. Trust me. $55,000 a month in rent you're just not going to sell enough beers. So we did it for the historical value, to bring it back to the community, because it was going. There's going to be a Starbucks.
On the topic of advocacy, Stacy, progress is often fueled by economic empowerment in addition to political advocacy. LGBTQ plus businesses often face distinct hurdles, but can also drive systemic change within their communities. How have you seen LGBTQ in entrepreneurship serve as a catalyst for community empowerment and visibility since the days of the Stonewall uprising?
Well, the reality is, in the 60s it was much more difficult. And I would say without entrepreneurship, you don't have liberation, right? You just cannot really be free without having entrepreneurship in any group of people. And I think we've seen LGBTQ leaders really understand that guiding principle and understand that. I think in the beginning we said, let us have a seat at the table. And then we said, okay, we're going to build the tables. And now we're saying, you know what, we're going to own the buildings where those tables sit, right? And that's super important. And I think we've seen that as community leaders and business leaders progress. And it's nice and refreshing to see business leaders and LGBTQ folks that are in the C-suite. They're leading conversations. We've got some in tech and healthcare and all kinds of businesses. So seeing that happen, again, within the entrepreneurship side of owning our own pockets and our own money to make sure that we can drive that. And I think we're a good example by the Stonewall Gives Back initiative, giving back consistently to the community and seeing entrepreneurship and business leaders and business owners do that, not just through representation and visibility, but through activism and advocacy.
Do you think, are there any economic strategies that you think uniquely benefit the LGBT business owners?
I think there's quite a few. I think for us, one of the biggest things that we've seen like that, because we've been so adamant about fighting for the community and being so visible and out there at protests and not just advertising, marketing, come to Stonewall, but really fighting with the community side by side, that's been a very big catalyst for us. I would say from an economic indicator standpoint, there's no doubt, I don't have the stats, I normally have the stats on me, but there's no doubt that diversity, equity, and inclusion leads to better bottom line. That's facts. The more diverse your business is, the more likely you're going to succeed, and that's true for the LGBTQ plus community as well. If you want to hire Gen Z, if you want them to buy your product, you better have a diverse workforce, and then you better be on the right side of equality. And I would say at this point, we're fighting and we're in a rough period, but 20, 30 years from now, businesses that don't believe in equality are not going to exist.
Good. And on the DEI spectrum, I'll throw in innovation to that one, to my next question. Many companies treat diversity as a compliance measure.
Right.
But true inclusion drives creativity, community, and new ideas. Stonewall has always been more than a bar. It's a hub for connection and innovation. Can you share examples of how LGBTQ inclusion has positively transformed your business, perhaps leading to unexpected partnerships, events, innovations?
Yankees.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Like I said, this isn't my forte, but what we did is we have a platform. Stonewall Lane, in general, has a platform. So what we want to do is we want to bring other people in and get on their platform, and hopefully they're higher. So what we did is we started a scholarship program with the New York Yankees. So every year we give, we vet the students. 5 students get a $10,000 school scholarship. And what it is, we take 1 student from every borough, Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, and they get a $10,000 scholarship, and that brings us up. So we're speaking out even further. I had a dream, real quick. When we started our nonprofit, trying to figure ways to raise money and everything, and going up the Jersey Turnpike to work every day, I was thinking, what can we do? And I go, a beer. That can make money. So I told my brother, and my brother's into marketing and everything. He says, little brother, I'm going to take care of you. And he went around to all these different breweries. Mostly said no. Sam Adams didn't want to get near us. Brooklyn Beer said, yeah. Brooklyn Beer took us on. They made a beer for us. It is now picked up by Carlsberg. We're all over Europe. And we go and speak in Europe. I was just in when we were in Denmark last summer, and I stood there and talked, and I said, This right now is off of my mind. Something that I believed in, and everyone else can be that way too. Always believe, and it will work. Now you're drinking what I had in my mind of the Jersey Turnpike.
So yeah, what it's done is really through that partnership, and with the partnership with the Yankees, what you're really seeing is sports and beer, right? Which maybe not be two industries that would always be so LGBTQ friendly in recent years really came in. Yeah. And so they've been completely supportive. So it's really cool to see the sports industry do that. Another example is we've also partnered with Crypto.com Arena. It was one of the first places to become a safe space where the Lakers play in LA, which is huge, right? That entire thing, they went through the process and everything like that. Everybody within the arena, the full-time employees took the training, they became certified, and that's another big win. So those are a lot of unlikely partnerships that we've got through inclusion. Carlsberg, their headquarters in Denmark is becoming a safe space, and they're the ones who are really pushing out the safe space program in Europe. Not just the beer kind of drives the conversation, but really that beer is changing and creating safe spaces as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What advice do you have for other business leaders looking to foster that level of inclusion, that level of innovation?
I think it starts with, again, we're very lucky because we own probably arguably the most notable LGBTQ brand, and it's not a
the most
bar.
famous bar in the world.
Yeah.
Other than Cheers, and that's not real.
Yeah. And that being more than a bar, and sometimes we do think it is a brand. We think it is an institution. And the legacy, certainly, a lot of folks think of it as a monument. We've always felt like it was the legacy is actually a living movement, right? So having that kind of insight and wherewithal to go have these conversations. So I think for other business owners, it's really saying if you show up and support the community, they'll likely show up and support you. And you've got to really have that mindset and not just show up in ways, inauthentic ways where you're marketing or maybe, listen, this year we'll take you at the Pride events and love you because everyone's leaving, but that's not enough, right? We need to see you out there driving conversations, hosting panels, talking and really doing the work 365 around that. And I think it also really is about hire LGBTQ folks, right? If you have folks in your business and you're hiring the right folks and having these conversations, you're more likely to be able to build diverse and inclusive partnerships. Like I said, we've got very lucky because our platform is so big that we've been able to work with some of the most notable brands in the world. We've got partnerships with Saks Fifth Avenue. We've had partnerships with major designers and everybody across. So, but we're very fortunate. But for a small business owner, I would say, if you build it in an authentic way, they will come.
Absolutely. So on that growing, that next level of leadership, and with Stonewall Pride being this weekend here, many young LGBTQ individuals see Pride as a celebration, sometimes separated from its activist roots. As business leaders, you interact with both the pioneers of the movement and its future stewards. What qualities do you believe the next generation of LGBTQ leaders need to sustain and expand the progress that began at Stonewall?
You go.
I would say, it's interesting. We're often asked, what do you think folks like Marcia and Sylvia or Stormy would feel or say if they could see where our movement is today? Or you think they would, in that moment, when they had that opportunity to fight back, what was that like, or would they do that? And I would say to a lot of young folks out there, you want your Stonewall moment. Sadly, it's coming. We are seeing those rollbacks from the administration. We are under attack now. So if you want to know what it was like in 1969, we're on our way. So you're going to have your chance.
Stonewall, to me, is strength in numbers. Every time you put a rock on that wall, we become stronger and stronger as a community. And no one, no matter who you are or what you are, can knock it down. And they have to keep building that wall.
How would you mentor or support emerging LGBTQ talent in business or activism?
One of the ways we do that, we had mentioned through the Yankee Scholarship, right? So we're really looking at young leaders and we're rewarding future activists. Yeah. And when we're interviewing them, that is one of the biggest questions. They're all from public school New York City Public Schools by design. Sorry, I'm talking a lot, so by design, but thank you. So that is one way that we do that. We also really try to look around and look at those future leaders and have those conversations. We just worked with something out, also at Brooklyn Brewery, where we had folks apply to a grant, and part of the winning of the grant was going to be they get access to SIGBI and myself and Kurt for a year to have conversations around how to mentor them and help them in their activism, which I think is a great idea on the Upper Brooklyn Brewery. So I think that's just really a way to do it. I think it's making sure that you're letting them know that listen not to us, but learn from the elders, learn that history, because that's going to help you a lot as you're navigating this hard, tough life that it is right now. So we try to do that through the Stonewall Gives Back initiative, the Yankee Scholarship Program. We've had a few interns at SIGBI that we try to do that with as well. But I think business leaders, what you can do is look at somebody and say, hey, how are you going to move the needle? Can this person move the needle? And then give them the resources, the opportunity, and a little bit of education. And I'm sure they can.
Are there pitfalls you would warn them against as they build their own legacies?
These are hard questions.
I know. I'm letting you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's lots of pitfalls. I mean, I would say we've been doing this for 20 years. We are at this epicenter of LGBTQ rights, activism, business, and certainly all these things. We've made missteps, for sure. We've made mistakes. We've hopefully learned and then corrected those mistakes. And it's not been easy at all. So I would tell them to be aware of that, but also make sure that if you've got to give the right folks the mic. And sometimes with my white privilege and my cis privilege, that means turning it over to black and brown trans folks who can't get into the rooms in 2025, that they should be able to get into the room and help them get into the room. That's my job. And so I would tell young leaders that for sure. You're going to make mistakes. That's okay. Learn from it. Grow from it. Don't let it stop you. Make sure you get more marginalized folks. Give them the mic. Give them the room. And that you're bringing everybody up and not just staying in one monolith of the community.
Right.
Awesome. While there's been some undeniable progress, recent social and political shifts show how fragile those gains can be. Some argue that visibility and legal rights for LGBTQ people have improved dramatically, while others see new threats. How do you measure true progress for the LGBTQ business communities, and where do you believe the most crucial work remains ahead?
I think you measure it in impact, right? That's how you measure it. So what is the impact from a business standpoint are we seeing? So for me, just with us, it's looking at how many folks are we going to get on that heat map for impact? How many are LGBTQ-owned businesses are there in the U.S. or globally? That's impact. How many LGBTQ folks are in positions of leadership in their organization? That, for me, is impact. So I think that's how you have to look at it, is really looking at those factors. We know, I think it's still, $1.4 trillion in LGBTQ spending power that we have as a global group. So I think the impact is also going to be in the advocacy and activism around how we spend that money. Are we going to support folks that don't support us with our hard-earned LGBTQ dollars? I hope not. So I think we make political and social change through money, power, and business, and that's through literally impact.
And that's measurable progress. How can businesses and community members stay vigilant but also united in these times of so much backlash?
That's tough. What do you think, Kurt? I think it.
Final question.
These are not the questions.
Final question.
I think it's hard, and it's really, really tough. And I think, like I said, there's so many issues impacting, right? We're one of the few groups that has every race, every religion. We've got a lot of different folks in the LGBTQ community and a lot of different intersectionality. And sadly, a lot of those intersectionalities are under attack at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. So
that's why we need the wall. Seriously. I mean, and the Stonewall is ground zero. Yeah, Stonewall is the gay church, and it's for lesbians, it's for gay men, it's for transgender, it's for drag, it's for leather daddies, it's even for straight allies, it's even for straight people. And we have to live by that, and we got to come together as a community. We can't be fighting within the community, and I'm seeing a lot of that these past couple years. And we have to stick together, because no one, Donald Trump, can knock us down.
Yeah, I think the division within the community is super impactful and important. And I think really, like I said, the working of, and the inner workings of working together is really, really important. And also coalition building with other orgs, right? So if you're a business that wants to thrive in an LGBTQ environment, don't see somebody else as your competitor. If you're a nonprofit in the LGBTQ space, again, it's that kind of same mentality. It's not pie, there's enough for everybody. Build coalition, build allies, build groups, build collectives. That's how we're going to win this fight.
Yeah.
Kurt, Stacy, thank you so much.
Thank
you. This was insightful. As anybody in the room have any questions?
Well, it's one thing for a small business, but when you're dealing with corporations, the bottom line is the bottom line.
Yep.
And as long as companies like Target and Bud are examples where aligning with the community can be a negative for the business and the stockholders, and certainly then the CEO is accountable to that, what strategy do we have to counter that?
I would say look at Costco, right? If you look at the earnings, the current earnings, that probably so would be the second quarter earnings that just came out, stock-wise even. Costco whipped the tail off the Target in earnings because of the fact that they actually kept supporting us, right? They kept supporting equality. So that's a good example. You're right, Target got blasted for it, but then here comes Costco saying, we're going to double down. We're sticking with the community. We're going to stick with making sure we've got black entrepreneurs in there, trans folks in there. We're not getting rid of those businesses. Target didn't just do away with LGBTQ. They did it away with all DE&I. They got rid of a lot of their black-owned businesses too. That crushed their stock in the end. It may make a headline and they may get a spike and win like that, but I feel confident that when we're talking about the bottom line, long-term strategy, equality, DE&I wins.
Yeah, and I think that's the challenge, is that they live
quarter to quarter, report to earnings report, sure.
We need to help them
see that, for sure. Yeah, 100%. And I think that really does, that's where we kind of get and work with folks like Out Leadership that work with some of the largest, massive corporations, or even our folks and friends at GLAD that have done some amazing statistics around LGBTQ business and corporate success based on DE&I. But yeah, that's a great point. We actually, after that Bud Light incident, we dumped Bud Light, we poured it in the street. They came back, apologized, all these other kind of things. But yeah, they're an example of a stock that tanked because of the conservatism. But that was also just handled completely wrong from a PR marketing standpoint, all the way around. It never, so that kind of stuff.
I never liked Bud Light.
No, so buy a Stonewall in IPA instead, and
Stonewall in IPA. It's actually really good.
And support folks like Brooklyn Brewery. And another quick thing on that, they did it again where beer drinkers especially after Bud Light, for Brooklyn to come out. And what they said right after the inauguration, no, there are more, it's not just two genders. There are more than that. And someone said, stick to beer. They ran a campaign saying, why we will not just stick to beer. That's the kind of allies that we need. I mean, there's nothing performative about that. And it was so cool to see a business double down for our community that way.
No, I liked your comment about authenticity earlier, and you can feel it or not in companies that are committed.
Authentic, that's right, yeah.
Well, again, thank you. Just to know, Greater Fort Lauderdale, including Wilton Manors, is widely recognized for celebrating and supporting LGBTQ business ownership. In fact, Wilton Manors has the highest concentration of same-sex couples per capita in the U.S., and it's home to over 170 businesses in our chamber.
Amazing. Let's get them certified as safe spaces.
I was about to say, I foresee a partnership going on here. So like Stonewall, our community balances honoring our activist roots by hosting Stonewall Pride this weekend, with cultivating a vibrant business ecosystem and that welcomes innovation and entrepreneurship, youth, and new leadership. So, building.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
The safe spaces.
Yep.
Is that related at all to the safe places that we have, for instance, here in Wilton
No.
Manors? Are you familiar with?
I'm not familiar with what you all do here, no.
Yeah, I guess it was issued through the police department to designate businesses to post on their door that this is a safe place.
Yes.
So if you have an issue on the street or whatever, you can find a merchant that will give you a safe place.
Right. But that's more.
Yes.
That's
So
not
that's
really.
this program is out of Seattle,
Okay.
where it's adopted by several local cities and municipalities. Wilton Manors has adopted that program.
Okay.
West Palm Beach, Miami has a portion of the county, and it's to identify a safe space, just like the gentleman said. If you see a fight outside, get the person, bring them in.
Right.
Yeah, where ours is a whole
Yeah.
different,
Yeah, ours is-
whole,
yeah.
Ours, when we're talking about the context of safe spaces for us, we're talking about where you're going to feel emotionally safe, which we would argue would then lead to physical safety as well. And it really is more of a way of making sure that businesses that say they're on the side of equality are. So our 10 criteria and even our training that's designed, our training, we really talk about biases you may be bringing into the workplace. We really talk about ways in which we show up and some of the questions we may ask that may be more microaggressions. We really talk a whole thing around why we need safe spaces, gender identity, gender expression, what that means. So that we're really going from more of a, when we think
Policy oriented.
100%, yep.
Yeah.
And not so much physical safety. And I would argue, and I'm very careful, we'll probably get to safer spaces, all of us, because no place, sadly, is safe in 2025, the way we're headed. So I think it'll eventually become the Safer Spaces program, just based on what's happening.
Absolutely. So to close, how can we get a hold of you? How do we reach out to you? What's the best way to connect?
Yeah, so first of all, you need to come visit the Stonewall Inn
Okay.
and visit us at
Well,
Stonewall.
hello. Our namesake is all over here.
And the Stonewall Inn website, so you can check out events and what we have going on, is thestonewallinnyc.com. And then if you want to learn more about safe spaces and the stuff we're doing with SIGBI, you can go to stonewallinitiative.org. Just really quickly also, we do charge a fee to become certified, like $500 a year. That funding, after we pay off the program, then goes back, and we actually give grants to folks in places like Kenya, Uganda. Here in the U.S., we funded people in Tennessee, Mississippi. We really try to give back to folks that are typically in less geographic privileged areas. So we give out grants every year. People can look at our grants and apply for those at stonewallinitiative.org. But it's really a way of giving back completely once you become certified as safe space.
Awesome.
Yep.
Again, Stacy, Kurt, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My voice is not